Welcome to Black, Red, and Blue. I'm AJ, and joined with me as always is Steve. So, basically, same thing that we've seen every other time this year, a draw again. But this, for some reason, was a little bit more frustrating. Why is that, Steve? Help me out here.
Well, because for me, I think a lot of us fans are still desperately holding on to a playoff hope. And we go up early with an amazing goal by a former player. We're going against our former player. It seems like a lot of emotions going in this game. And then they went up 2-1, and we went ahead and drew later. We'll discuss those. But then, it really seemed that entire second half, especially after we scored that tying goal, that the team just set back in like a prevent defense. Like, it just seemed like they were not, and you had mentioned it, they were not, St. Louis was playing to draw, where it seemed like New England was playing to win. And it's just one more nail in the coffin for the season. And, because we know as fans, we're passionate, we want our team to do well, that it just clearly wasn't in the cards. Another not win. So that's what I saw. What about you?
Yeah, so let's think about it this way. Essentially, we had 7 games left in the season. So this was the 7th of our last 7, right? So we had 27 points, if I recall correctly, going into this game. And most people say that we need about 44, 45, something like that, points to get into the postseason. So we needed we'll say about 17 points. Holy moly, think about that. So if we needed 17 points and we have 7 games left, that means we could at most get 21 points if we won every single game out. The problem is now with this, how we basically drew this game, is now we have 6 games left, and now we're sitting at 28 points. So we need at least, 16 points, let's say, to possibly, and this is just possibly, get a playoff spot, which means that we would basically have to win 5 out of the next 6 games.
That's right.
And probably draw, something like that. And that's not even guaranteed. And that's the worst thing I think about being a fan and seeing something like this, is you want your team to control their destiny. You don't want to rely on other teams to lose, draw, whatever. That's what's kind of frustrating about this. And the thing is St. Louis controlled their destiny tonight, or last night, rather. They had the chance to kind of go for it, and it felt like they just kind of gave up. Now, I'll see what you think, though, is that we had Betcher coming off, and then we saw Reed come on. And a lot of people are saying, well, we kind of gave it up just based on that substitution. But my argument is Reed is a very offensive guy. He plays almost like a left wing in a way. I don't necessarily think that was a defensive substitution. I think he's a very offensive player. And Betcher, he probably was starting to get gassed.
Yeah.
He did seem to be kind of non-impactful for most of the game. So I don't necessarily think that particular thing was kind of just mailing the game and just hoping for a draw. But when you looked at the style of play, they did look to be playing very safe.
Yeah.
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 So,
I mean, they seemed to take their foot off the gas. And like you're saying, they just wanted to play safe. It was really poor weather. They probably felt like they got lucky. I don't know, but it didn't. I mean, Klaus had a good header towards the end of the match, but it just didn't feel like they were pressing. I think we mentioned, like, what happened to the press. Our team getting 5 yellow cards last night probably didn't help. Probably didn't want to risk losing these players for the next match. So, especially since most of our star players were the ones that got the yellows anyway. So, can't risk them going out there and getting a second yellow red. So maybe that was it too. No risky plays,
Agreed. Steve, I got to ask you this question. And I think I've seen this a lot on Reddit, Twitter, etc. What do you think this means for Hack?
I mean, for me, I never saw Hackworth as being the head coach for this team next year anyway. So I don't think he has anything to play for. I think he's wanting to get back into that front office as soon as possible. And he's playing with house money. Lutz already said that he's not going to be the head coach. He said as soon as they put him on that he's just going to be the intern for the rest of this year. So I don't really think it matters to him. I mean, it kind of sucks to say, but I don't think Lutz is playing for next year. Or not Lutz, Hack is playing for next year. I think he's just playing to finish off this year. What were the people saying? Like, were they shocked? Are they upset that he's not winning like crazy? I don't know. I don't know why people feel like he is
Yeah.
going to be the head coach. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's I've seen different topics that people have brought up. There's one where people are saying, well, he shot himself in the foot. He shouldn't have been playing for the tie. No real head coach would do something like that. Even one person, interestingly, said, hey, maybe he's just trying to make his resume look good. That way he has a draw, which is kind of just mediocre. It's not like you lost or won, but maybe he was doing it just to try to help win the head coach job. I don't think that's the case, to be honest. And maybe they had some discussions before the game saying, hey, what do we do if this happens? And maybe they had the discussion, if we get close to the end, maybe we do just play for the draw. Maybe that their mathematical analysis said that they should play for the draw. I mean, who knows? I mean,
Well, I'm looking at the standings, and we are right now 8 points out of the last playoff spot. The very next team we play happens to be that team in the ninth place spot, Minnesota. If we beat Minnesota at home, we're now 5 points out of that last place spot. So, like you're saying, I didn't even consider that. Maybe the team has taken that mathematical approach where we don't have to get a win. If we just gather up enough fucking draws, we can possibly make the playoffs if we pick up a few wins. What was it? Last year, we had the most wins for an expansion team to start. This year, we could have the most wins for a second year, or not wins, but draws and still make the playoffs. Like, it could happen. We could make the playoffs with a losing record. And my God, see, this is what happens with fans. We're still talking about the playoffs. I feel like Jim, oh my God, head coach from the Colts, playoffs. Like, this should not be something we're talking about right now. But because we're not mathematically eliminated, it's still a possibility. Because I feel a sense of optimism when I look on that schedule for next week, and I see we are playing Minnesota, and we're only 8 games behind them, and we can pick up 3 with a win. So, I mean, to me, it's, oh my God, why is this still doable, AJ? Why is this still doable?
well, it's because basically 2/3 of the league goes to the playoffs, which is a great money making move. All the leagues in the U.S. kind of do that. I don't like it. I don't like the idea of a losing team being able to go to the playoffs. I just don't. Now, it does make it more fun because if we were mathematically eliminated before the League's Cup, my gosh, like that would be kind of miserable. So at least there's like some fun in talking about the playoffs. So
Playoffs.
so speaking of speaking of which, you brought up the point about playoffs versus next year, and let's talk about our team a little bit next year. There's been some surprising things that's happened this year, and some really, really good things that happened during the summer transfer window. Now, one of the things I think you and I have consistently said, so this spoiler alert, this is a Thor bashing moment. Anybody who is easily triggered may want to pause and fast forward through this section.
Go find a headband and hold it.
But we've pretty reliably, our thought from the very beginning was that Thor, he seems like he gets in great positions, but he just can't finish. I mean, I like the guy. He probably works super hard. Like, I appreciate that, but he just doesn't have that final lacking ability. Now, some people think that he just lacks confidence or whatever, or maybe he just doesn't know how. I don't know. If it's a confidence issue, like, whatever. Now, I actually saw one fan had put on there that it's the fans' fault that he doesn't have confidence because he reads all our negative thing.
Come on.
Really? The exact same thing I was thinking. Like, give me a break, right? But I like him, but like yesterday's game, he had a golden opportunity in front of him that, now, I will admit it's hard, but if you're going to be a striker winger, you have to at least give it a good ride. You have to at least give it a good shot. Now, I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to pass it off to a non-existent player, but you're right there in front of the net. You got to at least try to do something. And I get it. You're not going to score every single time. but that was 2 times this game. And it feels like every game, there's a time where we're talking about Thor having a golden opportunity, some better than others, and still missing it, choking on it, tripping. Like, come on.
Yep. Yeah, he had a couple. He had one or two pretty good shots at goal last night, and he had a moment where he could have passed it to an open either Toyer or Hartle, and he chose not to, and it could have taken a lead because of that. And to your point, with these people saying that somehow we're responsible for us as professional sports players' mental stability, that's trash. Also, if you are going to be a striker, you should know where you are on the field at all times. And I'm pretty sure part of your job is knowing how to pass and knowing how to shoot. Like, you're not Jake Nowitzki just kicking the ball as hard as you can, hoping it goes in. That is your position. You are expected to know how to do it. I think any of us professionals are expected to know how to do our job. I'm not going to tolerate someone saying that we can't say a player should play Blair, because it just wasn't good last night. It wasn't great. And just because he happens to score in like 1 every 6 games, we're supposed to say, oh, he's getting better. No, we're not. We don't have to say that. We chased AZ out on a rail because we didn't like the way he was playing, but somehow we're supposed to, we're supposed to somehow accept that Thor is a sensitive little baby boy. No, I doubt that.
I hate picking on players. I do. And yeah, I do feel for them. Like, these are real people. I do agree with people who say this. These are real people. We have to make considerations in that fact. I get it. But ultimately, that's what sports is. It's very competitive. And I guarantee you, if you ask any player, do you want to remove the competitive nature of the sport and that way it's touchy and feely? They would say absolutely not. They want to be challenged. They want to kind of be held to the iron, or whatever the saying is. Like, that's what they want. So because of that, yeah, you do get people who are on random podcasts that are going to criticize you, people on Twitter, Reddit, because we do care about ultimately the team.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair game.
Right.
But the problem is I think next year we really need to figure out something with Thor. I think we have a problem with the winger position because Indy, man, he can have flashes of greatness. Like, he does know how to shoot, but there's times where he's just not nearly as effective. Kind of, like what we've seen lately, in my opinion. And then we have Thor, who, well, we just talked about Thor, who just ain't cutting it. Now, the one good thing is we have our forgotten player. You ready for this? Celio.
Yep.
I mean, let's be honest. It's going to be our striker. We're going to have Hartel, Toyer, and Celio. And that's your A team right there.
Yes, it is.
The question is who do you put as your kind of secondary winger? I think it's probably Indy, maybe Thor. Thor maybe has some upside, but it's just something that we're going to have to look at next year for sure. What did you think about Klaus coming in?
His size alone and his skill set changes the game. Honestly, he almost had a score. The ball can run through him. He came on the 57th minute, 56th minute, and really seemed to ignite the team. I'll be glad when he is ready to go a full 90, because like you were saying, it'd be interesting to see what lineup they put out there, because he's going to probably be the 9, and what are we going to do with him? But like, it was pretty neat seeing him come out and he seemed so excited out there in the rain and made an impact immediately. He was bugging the defensive players. I saw Parker kind of barking at the referee about him already. So it's like, that is what he does. What did you think whenever he came out? Because I was excited. I think I texted you. There we go. So
my girlfriend was watching this game. She's been getting into city games the last couple of games. Before, she really hasn't watched a lot of the games. But the second that the second that Klaus came out, she was like, okay, this has a different feel. Like, it just feels like there's a little bit more energy. There's just a little bit more mojo going on. Now, the thing is she doesn't have any idea about the whole Betcher versus Klaus kind of argument, the whole like Klaus hate and everything. But she noticed that pretty much throughout the game once Klaus came in. And I think we all kind of felt that. Now, the one thing I did like, and I'm not going to lie, is I liked seeing Betcher and Klaus out there because
Yes.
ultimately, Klaus, I don't think he's going to stop doing this, is he still gets in that false nine mentality. Sometimes he's in front of the net, but sometimes he's dropping way back that just play make. The only problem is you need somebody who's going to basically challenge the net, which either means that like somebody like Hartel or Celio next year, they either have to switch from like a winger to almost like a secondary striker, or you need to have two strikers out there and then put Betcher on the absolute top and Klaus just below him.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking there. So
I just checked. We have Thor on contract until next year. So we got another season with him, unless we farm him out.
yeah, and to be honest, there probably is some teams that would love to have him, that would love some of that energy on the wings. We'll see. And I know, unfortunately, he has taken an international slot from us, so that's one downside. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting next year to see what we're gonna end up doing here.
Yep.
Especially when we get Celio back. So, what did you think about the right and left back this game?
What's the nice way to say they were liabilities?
Yeah, that is a nice
Yeah,
way to say
I
it.
think definitely a nice way of saying it. I did not. There was no confidence coming out of those spots. It felt like the balls were just funneling through there from the other side, and our center backs were just having to play extra hard. Um, Jake kind of. I think I commented. He's pulling a grandma from the Notebook on us, where we think he's sending it. He has a really good game, and then he just kind of falls back to what he is. And I'm not really sure what I think about Horn yet, because he's only been with us for 3 games or so, but like not been super the last couple of games.
No, no, not to pick on the girlfriend again, but she even made a point this past game. She's like, "Why is City just constantly letting New England get to our right backside?" And that's what it felt like. They were attacking it hard. I know, and this is going back to the Thor thing that we talked about. I know Nowinski just had that interview that many people had listened to where he was like, well, I just felt like I had a little bit more to give. I'm playing for my kids, really kind of touchy-feely, kind of getting to your heart. But ultimately, this is a competitive game, and this performance did not hold up. It was almost one of those things that now I kind of wish that maybe he retired after last game. That way he
Go out on
went
top.
out on top. But this was a really poor game for him. I felt like it was porous. I don't think there was some contribution to the offense, but I felt like it was severely lacking. It definitely was not a Totland type of performance, which where the heck is he? I don't know. I guess they were just trying to reward Nowinski, maybe to see what he was.
Yeah.
Maybe they aren't playing for the playoffs, and now you're just trying to figure out who are you going to keep for next year. Well, unfortunately, this did not go Nowinski's way. And then Horn, I don't know what's going on there. I was really excited. I was like, okay, this guy's going to be great. He can kind of come in, help play left back, play center back potentially. But no, this was not a great performance for him. There wasn't any major blunders that I can remember, but there wasn't any major contributions either.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not sold on Horn or Nowinski. I checked too. Nowinski's contract is up at the end of this year, so I don't see him returning for next year.
Okay, so maybe this truly was a game to see, hey, are we going to keep him? Are we going to let him go? Was that a fluke of a game, or was that a real game? Unfortunately, it may have been a fluke.
Yep, I do too.
That's unfortunate. Okay. Let's head to our favorite game segment, which is goal or no goal. I'll start with this. Taylor Twellman, everybody's favorite. I kind of like him, actually. But he had said the handball law is exhausting. And he made a point that a lot of people will complain that it's the MLS thing. No, it's not. It's across the world. The
Everywhere.
handball law. Honestly, if you ask me, I probably would have given that a handball.
Oh, you mean at the end of Hebert?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Although I wasn't happy that they went back that 30 seconds before like the however call where they went back, but it wasn't even in the current play to look at that call. But like I said, I think that the guy had to make the call because he did no handball earlier in the game. So you're right. It's so nuanced, and it's up to VAR a lot of times, and it's just I don't know how to make it better though. I think since it's consistently inconsistent everywhere, that's just the reality we were in.
I don't know if it's one of those things they just need to make it simple. Like anything above the elbow isn't a handball or above the shoulder, like something. Just make it so that it either is or isn't. I know it used to be that way. And then they just kind of allowed for exceptions like natural positions and stuff like that. I don't know. They need to find a way. And my gut tells me at some point they probably will. It might be a couple years, but it kind of is what it is.
Yeah, the only problem is when you don't have nuance, then you got teams gaming how to take advantage of the lack of nuance. You have Bill Belichick's all of a sudden showing up, trying to get every little inch in there, and so then that's a shame too. But yeah, I think you're right. They'll probably. I mean, it's
So
worldwide though, so
on the lack of handball call, goal or no goal?
like because it wasn't a handball.
Yeah, I'm saying no goal because I
Yeah,
actually think that it should have been called.
I
But
think it should have been too.
obviously, a City fan, I'm
Yeah,
glad,
yeah,
but
no,
no goal on it.
I was ready to be upset because I was going to acknowledge that it was a handball, but then get upset that the other one wasn't called for us. Like I was
Yeah.
prepared as a fan to be upset that we didn't get the call, but that was definitely a handball.
Okay, goal or no goal? The MLS stupid rules. The Columbus Crew. If you guys did not see this, they only had one goalkeeper because of international duty, and the problem was is that because of call ups, they couldn't bring anybody up from their second team, the Crew 2 team, and they only had one. And then we had a red card, right, Steve?
Yeah, yeah. The
And
Romero guy, he came out of his box and committed a foul, so he got a red card.
yeah, so he got a red card, and then they had to bring a midfielder in to play. And unfortunately, that occurred, I think it was right at the beginning of the second half. And then this poor guy ended up giving up 4 goals because I
Yep,
think it was 0-0 at that
it
point or
was
0-1, whatever it was. And then he ended up giving 4 goals. How stupid is that? That a team is getting punished for having one of your players go on international duty that represents, and honestly, it's like an advertisement for MLS. It's like saying, hey, look, our players are good enough to be on national teams, but then we're gonna punish those teams that run out of
right,
options. I forgot
right.
what team it was. Maybe it was Atlanta or something that actually was able to call up their goalkeeper from their second team 7 times. There's a limit of 4 because of the Olympics. That was okayed, but not other international duty. Like,
Right.
what the heck? How stupid is this?
Pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Now, as somebody said, I get it. You don't want to have a shadow roster where you can just call up people unlimited, but there should be like maybe they should change it so you can have 2 optional call ups, but then unlimited international call ups or something for like similar position. Like you can't just have a goalkeeper go on international duty and like call up a striker. You
Right.
should be able to replace that.
I
I
would
don't.
think that every team should be able to have 2 goalkeepers on their roster. If one is on international duty, then you got to be able to have a backup goalie instead of having some other poor guy that's definitely not a goalie having to play the position, one of the toughest in the league. So yeah,
Yeah, it makes a mockery of this. So I would say goal for the MLS having stupid rules
right.
for
Yep.
that thought process. Okay. Let me see if I can give a couple more. Oh, here we go. Club Kojima on Twitter said, all of you scapegoating Thor are pathetic. In other words, we're blaming Thor for everything. As if it's his fault that Klaus is a waste of a DP and Indy is below mediocre at best, and we have a dreadful defense and no midfield to cover for them. Yeah, he's made mistakes, but who hasn't on this squad?
What a weird statement. I don't even know what to think about that. I guess no goal in that one. I mean, it's just Klaus was a mistake. No, I don't think so. What about you? When you read that, what did you think?
There's so much Klaus hate, but I'm sorry. I mean, we saw how the game changed when he came in. You can't tell me that Kloss isn't a game changer. Now, I do agree. If you want to make an argument this year, if you want to say that Kloss as a single striker isn't working by playing a false nine, okay, now we can have a discussion. But to say that he shouldn't be on the field, I think you need to say, okay, we need Kloss on the field. We either need a second striker, or we need to do 4-4-2 something, or maybe even the 3-5-3 we kind of did, like something. I think you have to have Kloss. He's one of your better players, one of the better playmakers on the field. This is crazy to think that. And I'm sorry, Thor, he had the opportunities. If we want to be goal-oriented thought process here, which most fans are, he had the opportunity for the goals.
Yeah.
And squandered them. Sorry. So, no goal on that tweet.
Dumb tweet.
Anyways, I think we could talk forever about this. This is a little shorter of an episode. That's okay. We'll be back next week, talk about the next game. Who we play next week?
Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, Minnesota. It's like you had said that they're just above us, so we could maybe actually steal some points from them.
Oh, real quick, I got one for you real quick. So did you happen to notice that Bradley Carnell was hired?
Assistant coach, right?
Yeah. SEO Soccer News says, saw this last night, forgot to comment. Good for Coach Carnell. So, I mean, good for Coach Carnell. He was able to get an assistant job, goal or no goal.
Good for him. That's awesome. I'm really happy for him.
Yeah.
Goal. He deserves, and I get that the team moved on. I'm okay with that, but he definitely deserves to be coaching somewhere. So that I'm really excited for him. And by the way, that's a good follow too for people. STL Soccer News on Twitter. I would definitely give a shout out to them. So make sure you follow us, person.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Hit us with the social, Steve.
All right. So
peace on out.
Yep. You can find us on BRB Fancast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Facebook. We're Maze Zipper. I'm also on BRB Fancast Steve. We got BRB Fancast AJ. Don't forget to go to the gold or the bronze boot tonight. The bronze boot over at City Park. You got SLU versus SIU. SIU has been dominant for the last 30 years or so. We're going. We're SIU grads here in this house, so go Cougars. Other than that, go for City.